Hi, this video will cover section 1.6, solving quadratic equations with the quadratic formula. And this is for the class Math 0305 with the co-requisite of Math 1324. This is the second part of the videos for this section. So on the first video, we were able to solve, well, we started by explaining what is a quadratic function, what's the product of it, and we solved examples 1a and 1b. And also 1C. That took me a while. So now what I really want to do is go a little bit faster since we already explained the purpose of writing down the variables, substituting, and all of that. So if you haven't seen the first video, I would recommend you do. So we're going to start here. Like I said, we already solved part C, so we're going to start with D. So we're going to write down our coefficients. So A is the coefficient of the x squared, is a 2. B is the coefficient of the x, a -3. And finally, C is the constant term, which happens to be positive 1/2. Now, in the formula, we have that x will be equal to -b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and everything will be divided by 2a. Now, we're going to start substituting from the numbers that we got here, and that will be x is equal to negative from the formula, but then b is negative itself. So we have -3 plus minus the square root of -3 in parentheses, because that's the value for b, square minus 4 times a, which is 2, and times c, which is 1/2. And that is a fraction. All of that divided by 2 times a, so 2 times 2. So from here, we could simplify several things. First, here, this double negative will cause that into a +3. We still have the plus minus, and then inside the radical, I'm going to simplify it a little bit. So -3 squared is +9. And then here, 2 times 1/2, it will equal to 2/2, which is 1. Or we could say they cancel because they equal 1. So that will be 1 times, the 1 comes from here, and that will be 1 times -4. So that will be -4. And all of this divided by 4. So now to keep simplifying, we will have that x is equal to a -3. I'm sorry, not negative, positive. We already took care of that negative sign. So it will be +3 plus minus the square root. I'm going to do the operation in here. 9 minus 4, 5. And that is divided by 4. Now remember that from here we have two solutions. One of them is with the plus sign, so it will be 3 plus the square root of 5 divided by 4. The other one will be 3 minus the square root of 5 divided by 4. And that will be the answer. Now I'm going to move on to example E. And for that one, we can't just start writing down what A, B, and C will be because we do not have the equation equaling to 0. So that will be our first task, to move that +2 to the left side so that it is with everything else. And so that will be x squared plus 2x minus 1. And then we will have -2 equals 0. Here we could say combine like terms, so our equation will be x squared minus 2x minus 3, and that is equal to 0. Now from here, we're going to get our a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient of x squared, which is a 1. B is the coefficient of x, which is a -2. And then c will be the constant term, which is a -3. Okay, so we start by, I'm going to just write the quadratic formula again. So it's -b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So we'll start substituting here. So negative from the formula, and then b is negative itself, so -2. Then plus minus the square root of -2 squared minus 4 times 1 for A, and then times -3 for C. All of that divided by 2A, and A is equal to 1. So it would just be 2 times 1. So from here, we continue. Here, negative, negative, so that will be a positive 2. Plus, minus, then the square root, we have -2 squared, so that will be -2 times -2, which is positive 4. And then from here, -4 times 1 is -4. The -4 times -3 will be positive 12. All of that divided by 2. Now I'm going to do what's inside the radical, the addition, so that will be 16. And luckily, 16 is a perfect square, so that will allow us to get an integer as the solution. So the square root of 16 is 4. Here with the plus minus, we are already accounting for both a positive 4 and a -4, and then divide by 2. So from here, don't forget that one of the x's will be calculated with the positive 4, 2 plus 4 divided by 2, and that will be equal to 6 divided by 2, which is equal to 3. The only reason we can divide is because we took the square root of 16, making it a 4, which is a rational number. 4 and 2 could be added. They could also be subtracted. So that is our first solution, x equals 3. And for our second solution, it will be 2 minus 4 divided by 2. So that will be -2 over 2, which is equal to negative. So those are our two solutions, our two x values. We get 2 because we're solving a quadratic equation. Now I'm going to move on to example F. And here, what we need to do as well is manipulate our terms so that they are all on the same side. So what I'm going to do is move this positive x to the left. Instead of being added on the right, now it's going to be subtracted on the left. And then I'm going to write down -36 right here. And now I have my quadratic equaling 0. That is very important that you always, before you start substituting, you have your equation equaling 0. From here, we write down that A is 2, B is -1, and C is equal to -36. So now formula again, x is equal to -b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So from here, we'll start substituting from the values that we found here. You see, if you notice, 2 of them are negatives, so we have to be extra careful. And we will get x equal to negative times -1 plus minus the square root of -1 squared minus 4 times 2 times -36. All of that divided by 2 times 2. And so from here, I'm going to make some more room. So we'll get x is equal to double negative, so that will be +1, plus minus the square root, -1 squared will be +1. Then here from 4 times 2, -4 times 2 will be -8. Now -8 times -36 is going to give me +288. All of that is divided by 4. Now let's add the two numbers that are inside the radical. It will be 289. All of that divided by 4. Now, I wasn't sure if 289 was a perfect square. However, I know that 16 square, I believe, is 256. So then I just typed in my calculator. Remember, you could use a scientific calculator in 0305. So I just typed in my calculator, what will 17 squared be? And I was actually surprised that it's exactly 289. So yeah, 289 is a perfect square. Therefore, you can take the square root of it. So to continue solving this problem, we will use 1 plus minus, and like I said, the square root of 289 is 17, divided by 4. And from here, remember, we get two x values. The first one will be calculated with 1 plus 17, and then we divide 4. So that would be 18 divided by 4. We're not going to turn it into a mixed fraction. However, we could simplify by dividing by 2. So this will be 9 over 2. And that will be the exact answer simplified. The other one will come from here. 1 minus 17 over 4. And this will be negative 16 divided by 4, which will be equal to negative 4. And so that will be our second solution. Okay, now we have 2 more problems to go. And again, we're going to have to manipulate our equation so that it does look exactly, or that it equals 0. So we'll have 2m squared minus 7m minus 13 and then plus 10 and that equal 0. We do that because this negative 10, if we bring it across, it will be adding. So combine like terms, the ones that are here, and that will give us 2m squared minus 7m minus 3, and that is equal to 0. Now from here, we can write down that a is the coefficient, the m squared. Now we're not using x, we're using m as our independent or unknown variable. So a is a 2, b is the coefficient of the m, which is negative 7, and then c is negative 3, the constant term. So now I'm going to substitute into the formula, and just to remind you that we are solving for m, so there's nothing wrong if I just write m equals, and then the formula will be the same. Negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of this divided by 2a. So let's go ahead and substitute our numbers. So for negative b, we have negative and then negative 7 plus minus the square root of negative 7 squared. And then actually I'm gonna substitute below the formula because I would not have enough room there. So this would be bm is equal to negative times negative 7 plus minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 3. All of that is divided by 2 times 2 because a is equal to 2. And here, let's simplify a little bit. So negative, negative, that will turn into a positive 7, plus minus the square root of negative 7 squared is 49. And then the product of negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 3 is positive 24. And all of that is divided by 4. So from we will get 7 plus minus, we have to add what's inside the radical, 49 plus 24. 40 plus 20 is 60, and 9 plus 4 is 13. 60 plus 13 is 73. And all of that is divided by 4. Now, 73 is a prime number. We cannot get any factors, and moreover, no factors that are perfect squares. So we're just going to leave it like that and say that our first solution, m, is equal to 7 plus the square root of 73 divided by 4. While the other one, m, 7, not plus, sorry, we need the minus instead. The square root of 73, and that divided by 4. Those will be our 2 solutions. And now we have one problem left to do, which is great. So again, we're going to have to manipulate this equation. So we have 4b squared plus 8b plus 7, and then we're going to say this plus 7 on the left side will equal to negative. I'm sorry, this plus 4 or positive 4 on the right side on the left side will be negative 4. And that is equal to 0. So now we could simplify by combining like terms. So 7 minus 4 is 3. And we get that. Now let's go ahead and write down that A is equal to 4, B is equal to 8, and C is equal to 3. So now here, I personally don't like the fact that they're using the variable B for this equation. So let's just pretend that it was an X. And the reason I don't want to deal with that is because here we're using B as a constant. I don't want you guys to get confused. So we're going to pretend that this is just X, X squared, and X. So again, solving first, that will be negative B, the constant that we see here, plus minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC, everything divided by 2A. So let's go ahead and substitute. So X will equal to negative 8 plus minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 4 times 3. All of that divided by 2 times 4. So X will equal to negative 8 plus minus the square root of 64 minus 48 divided by 8. So we continue simplifying. Negative 8 plus minus the square root, and 64 minus 48 happens to be 16. And all of this divided by 8. So now we're almost there. We will have that X is equal to negative 8 plus minus 4, because that's the square root of 16, 4, divided by 8. Now, in this case, we have this negative 8 divided by 8 plus minus 4 divided by 8. The reason I choose to split the per fraction is because we'll be able to simplify our fraction and therefore get the correct answer according to my math lab. So negative 8 divided by 8 is negative 1. And then we will have plus minus, and here 4 divided by 8 is equivalent to 1/2. So now for our two solutions, and I kind of ran out of room, so I'm going to use the left side here. Our two solutions will be, one of them will be negative 1 plus 1/2, and the other one will be negative 1 minus 1/2. Now, we know that negative 1 converted into halves will be negative 2 over 2. Same thing here, negative 2 over 2. And so the final answers for that problem will be negative 2/2 plus 1/2 will be negative 1/2. That is solution 1. And solution 2 will be negative 2/2 minus 1/2 will be negative 3/2. And that will be the final answer. So thank you for watching. This concludes the video of section 1.6.